Prevents the transmission and engine from dropping too much when you've undone all the screws. Next, remove the rubber cover in the transmission bell housing. Then, bring a lifting platform into place. Raise it until the transmission bearings are free. Unscrew 3 screws in the lower transmission carrier and take off the transmission bearing. Repeat the process on the other side of the vehicle. The link of the torque tube to the transmission by unscrewing 3 of 4 screws. Renew these on reinstallation. Leave the upper screw. The same goes for the other side of the vehicle. The moment has come to remove the transmission carefully from the torque tube. Pay attention to all hoses and cables. Before installing, grease the transmission entrance shaft lightly. To reattach the mounting, please use a new screw. The installation occurs in the reverse order. Get a colleague to help you when you flange mount the transmission to the torque tube. Pay attention, as there's an equalizing ring in the shaft. Use an Allen wrench to press against the tension of the spring. This way the gearing of the equalizing ring slides into that of the torque tube.